Good evening. Good evening. I welcome you to this collaborative effort for Good Friday service of Grace United Methodist Church and North Church and South Church. It is going to be a time of remembering Christ's passion in word and sound and song. As you can see, your part is very small at the beginning, and then we ask you to just sit and experience the evening as it has been prepared for you. So at this time, I would invite you to join with me responsibly in our call to worship. Draw near to God on this day, a day when God seems so far away. Remember the story of betrayal and death, the saddest of our faith. Listen and pray on this evening of reflection, seeking to understand death and destruction. Draw near, dear friends, for God is as near to us as our every breath. God is there with Jesus as he was hanging on the cross, and God is here with us now. At this time, I would invite all who are able to stand as we join together in the hymn Journey to Gethsemane, which is on the back. We're going to do verses 1 through 3, and when we're done, I would invite you to sit down.
After Jesus and his disciples had completed the Passover meal, he went out with them across the Kidron Valley to a place called Gethsemane, where there was a garden which he and his disciples entered. Now Judas, who was to betray him, also knew the place, because Jesus often met there with his disciples. When he reached the place on the Mount of Olives, he said to them, "Pray that you do not come into this time of trial. Sit here while I pray." He took with him Peter and James and John and said to them, "I am deeply grieved, even to death. Remain here and keep awake."
I only want to say, if there is a way, take this cup away from me, or I don't want to taste its poison, feel it burn me. I have changed. I'm not as sure as when we started. Then I was inspired. Now I'm sad and tired. Listen, surely I've exceeded expectations. Tried for 3 years, seems like 30. Could you ask as much from any other man? But if I die, see the saga through and do the things you ask of me. Let them hate me, hit me, hurt me, nail me to their tree. I'd wanna know, my God. I'd wanna know, my God. I'd wanna see, my God. I'd wanna see, my God. Why I should die. Would I be more noticed than I ever was before? Would the things I've said and done matter anymore? I'd have to know, my Lord. I'd have to know, my Lord. I'd wanna see, my Lord. I'd wanna see, my Lord. If I die, what will be my reward? If I die, what will be my reward? I'd have to know, my Lord, why I should die. Why should I die? Can you show me now that I would not be killed in vain? Show me just a little of your omnipresent brain. Show me there's a reason for your wanting me to die. You're far too keen on where and how, and not so hot on why. All right, I'll die. Just watch me die. See how I die. See how I die. Then I was inspired. Now I'm sad and tired. After all I've tried for 3 years, seems like 90. Why then am I scared to finish what I started? What you started, I didn't start it. God, thy will is hard, but you hold every card. I will drink your cup of poison, nail me to your cross and break me, bleed me change my mind.
After leaving them to pray a third time, he came back to them and he said, "Are you still sleeping and taking your rest? Enough. The hour has come. The Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Get up. Let us be going. See, my betrayers are at hand." Immediately while he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, arrived, and with him there was a crowd from the chief priests, the scribes, and the elders, armed with swords and clubs. Now the betrayer had given them a sign, saying, "The one I will kiss is the man. Arrest him and lead him away under guard." So when he came, he went up to Jesus at once, and he said, "Rabbi," and then he kissed him. Jesus said to him, "Judas, is it with a kiss that you are betraying the Son of Man?" Then they laid hands on him and arrested him. Simon Peter, who had a sword, drew it, struck the high priest's slave, and cut off his right ear. Jesus said to Peter, "No more of this. Put your sword back in its sheath. Am I not to drink the cup that my Father has given me?" And then he touched the slave's ear and healed him. So the soldiers and their officers arrested Jesus and bound him. First they took him to Annas, who was the father-in-law of Caiaphas, the high priest that year. Caiaphas was the one who had advised the temple leaders that it was better to have one person die than for all the people to suffer.
At Annas' house, the temple authorities questioned Jesus about his disciples and about his teaching. Jesus answered, "I have spoken openly to the world. I have always taught in synagogues and in the temple, where all the Jews come together. I have said nothing in secret. Why do you ask me? Ask those who heard what I said to them. They know what I said." When he had said this, one of the police standing nearby struck Jesus on the face. "Is that how you answer the high priest?" Jesus answered, "If I have spoken wrongly, testify to the wrong. But if I have spoken rightly, why do you strike me?" Then Annas sent him bound to Caiaphas, who was the high priest. They took Jesus to the house of the high priest, and all there were the chief priests and the elders and the scribes assembled. Peter had followed him at a distance, right into the courtyard of the high priest, and he was sitting with the guards, warming himself at the fire. Now the chief priests and the whole council were looking for testimony against Jesus to put him to death. But they found none, for many gave false testimony against him, and their testimony did not agree. Some stood up and gave false testimony against him, saying, "We heard him say, 'I will destroy this temple that is made with hands, and in 3 days I will build another not made with hands.' But even on this point, their testimony did not agree. Then the high priest stood up before them and asked Jesus, "Have you no answer? What is it that they testify against you?" But Jesus was silent and did not answer. Again, the high priest asked him, "Are you the Messiah, the Son of the Blessed One?" Jesus said, "I am." Then the high priest tore his clothes and said, Why do we still need witnesses? You have heard this blasphemy. What is your decision?" All of them condemned him as deserving death. Some began to spit on him, to blindfold him, and to strike him. Now Peter had been sitting outside in the courtyard.
I think I've seen you somewhere. I remember you were with that man they took away. I recognize your face.
You've got the wrong man, lady. I don't know him, and I wasn't where he was tonight. Never knew the place.
That's strange, for I am sure I saw you with him. You were right by his side, and yet you denied.
I tell you, I was never ever with him.
But I saw you too. It looked just like you.
I don't know him.
Peter, don't you know what you have said? You've caught him dead.
I had to do it, don't you see? Or else they'd go for me.
It's what he told us you would do. I wonder how he knew.
Then Peter remembered what Jesus had said, "Before the cock crows, you will deny me 3 times." And Peter went out and wept bitterly. They took Jesus from Caiaphas to Pilate's headquarters.
This broken man cluttering up my hallway. Who is this unfortunate?
Someone Christ, King of the Jews.
Oh, so this is Jesus Christ. I'm really quite surprised you look so small. Not a king at all. We all know that you are news, but are you king? King of the Jews?
That's what you say.
What do you mean by that? That is not an answer. You're deep in trouble, friend. Someone Christ, King of the Jews. One in your state, be so cool about your fate, an amazing feat. The silent king. Since you come from Galilee, then you need not come to me, your Herod's race. Your Herod's case. And so the king is once again my guest. And why is this? Was Herod unimpressed? Talk to me, Jesus Christ. You have been brought here, manacled, beaten by your own people. Do you have the first idea why you deserve it? Listen, King of the Jews, where is your kingdom? Look at me, am I a Jew?
I have got no kingdom in this world. I'm through. There may be a kingdom for me somewhere if I only knew.
Then you're a king.
It's you that say I am. I look for truth and find that I get damned.
But what is truth? Is truth unchanging law? We both have truths. Is yours the same as ours? What do you mean? You'd crucify your king? Crucify him. He's done no wrong, no, not the slightest thing. Well, this is new. Respect for Caesar. Till now this had been no certainty lacking. Who is this Jesus? Why is he different? You Jews produce messiahs by the sackful.
We have no king but Caesar. We need him crucified.
Talk to me, Jesus Christ. Look at your Jesus Christ. I'll agree he's mad, ought to be locked up, but that is not a reason to destroy him. He's a sad little man, not a king or god, not a thief. I need a crime. From Jesus, what do you want, Jesus? Tell me. Why do you not speak when I have your life in my hands? How can you be quiet? I don't believe you understand.
You have nothing in your hands. Any power you have comes to you from far beyond. Everything is fixed and you can't change it.
You're a fool, Jesus Christ. How can I help you? Great self-destruction. Die if you want to, you misguided mother. I wash my hands of your self-destruction. Die if you want to, you innocent puppet.
The soldiers of the governor took Jesus into the governor's headquarters, and they gathered the whole cohort around them. They stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him, and after twisting some thorns into a crown, they put it on his head. They put a reed in his right hand and knelt before him and mocked him, saying, "Hail, King of the Jews!" They spat on him, and they took the reed and struck him on the head. After they had mocked him, they stripped him of the robe and put his own clothes on him. Then they led him away to crucify him. When Jesus became too weak to carry the cross upon which he was to be nailed, the soldiers compelled a passerby who was coming in from the country to carry his cross. His name was Simon of Cyrene, the father of Alexander and Rufus. Finally, they brought Jesus to the place called Golgotha, which means the place of a skull. When they came to the place that is called the skull, they crucified Jesus with criminals, one on his right and one on his left. Then Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." The people stood by, watching, but the leaders scoffed at him, saying, "He saved others. Let him save himself if he is the Messiah of God, his chosen one." The soldiers also mocked him, coming up and offering him sour wine and saying, "If you are the King of the Jews, save yourself."
Pilate had an inscription written and put on the cross. It read, "Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews." Many Jews read this inscription because the place where Jesus was crucified was near the city, and it was written in Hebrew, Latin, and Greek. When the chief priests of the temple saw this, they went to Pilate and said, "Do not write the King of the Jews, but rather write, 'This man claimed to be King of the Jews.'" Pilate answered, "What I have written, I have written." When the soldiers had nailed Jesus to the cross, they took his clothes and divided them into 4 parts, one for each soldier. They also took his tunic, which was seamless, woven in one piece from the top. So they said to one another, "Let us not tear it, but rather let us cast lots to see who will get it." This was to fulfill what the scripture says, "They divided my clothes among themselves, and for my clothing they cast lots." And that is what the soldier did. When it was noon, darkness came over the whole land until 3 in the afternoon. Standing near the cross were his mother and his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved standing beside her, he said to his mother, "Woman, here is your son." And he said to the disciple, "Here is your mother." And from that hour, the disciple took her into his own home. At about 3 o'clock, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, "Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani." That is, my God, why have you forsaken me? When some of the bystanders heard it, they said, "This man is calling for Elijah." At once, one of them ran and got a sponge, filled it with sour wine, put it on a stick, and gave it to him to drink. But the other said, "Wait, let's see whether Elijah will come to save him." And Jesus cried again with a loud voice and breathed his last. At that moment, the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. The earth shook, and the rocks were split. Tombs were opened, and many bodies of the saints who had fallen to sleep were raised. Now when the centurion and those with them who were keeping watch over Jesus saw the earthquake and what took place, they were terrified and said, "Truly, this man was God's Son."
Since it was the time of Passover, the Jewish authorities did not want the bodies left on the cross during the Sabbath, especially because that Sabbath was a day of great solemnity. So they asked Pilate to have the legs of the crucified men broken and the bodies removed. The soldiers came and broke the legs of the first and the other who had been crucified with Jesus. But when they came to Jesus and saw that he was already dead, they did not break his legs. Instead, one of the soldiers pierced his side with a spear, and at once blood and water came out. These things occurred so that the scripture might be fulfilled, "None of his bones shall be broken." And again another passage of scripture says, "They will look on the one whom they have pierced." After all these things, Joseph of Arimathea, who was a disciple of Jesus, though a secret one because of his fear of the temple authorities, asked Pilate to let him take away the body of Jesus. Pilate wondered if Jesus was already dead, so he summoned the centurion and asked whether Jesus was truly dead. When he learned from the centurion that Jesus was dead, he granted the body to Joseph. So Joseph came and removed Jesus' body. Nicodemus, who had first come to Jesus by night, also came, bringing a mixture of myrrh and aloes, weighing about 100 pounds. They took the body of Jesus and wrapped it with the spices in linen cloths, according to the burial custom of the Jews. Then Joseph took the body and laid it in his own new tomb, which he had hewn in the rock. He then had a great stone rolled in the entrance to seal the tomb, and he went away. Mary Magdalene and the other Marys were there, watching and praying opposite the tomb where Jesus was laid.